Hey everybody, welcome to the Inside Cafe. I'm your host, 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃, and today, I have my dear friend, Justus Rinkivicius, all the way from Lithuania today. And I brought my friend on today, Justus, to talk about startups, HR, talent acquisition, and how to find the right people. Because to me, as a coach and working with a lot of people in businesses and startups, this is definitely a big area of a lot of pain and trying to find the right fit, because I really believe that on both sides, actually, right? The right person can make or break a business. And then on the talent side, the right job can make or break your career oftentimes. And I'd really like to dive into that. So before we talk about a new way of finding the right talent for your startup, I want to know about you. And actually, I have a bio ready. So forgive me. So I'm going to read your bio real quick, and I'm going to ask you your version. So let me tell you a little about my friend Justus. He's been a serial entrepreneur for the last 12 years. You are the co-founder of Whatnot Innovations and Startup Studio, which is one of the leading startup studios in Southeast Asia and based in Bangkok, Thailand. You are now the acting entrepreneur in residence for the startup called Resonance, and which is an intelligence-driven startup that helps talented professionals match with leading startups in Southeast Asia, but you do it in a very different way. And before we dive into talking about Resonance and finding the right people, what's your story? How did you become a serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Whatnot? Like, who are you?
Okay. Yeah. So it's, first of all, it's thank you for having me. And it's great to be here and just to share my story. And I think it's an interesting topic. It's a very hot topic, right now. I think, like, considering where the whole like startup community is moving. But yeah, like back to me. So I started back in London. So I'm originally from Lithuania, as you mentioned, but straight after my studies, I moved to London just to try to find myself, and was kind of doing everything, all kinds of jobs that you could imagine. I was working in hospitality, like working in hotels, like doing everything that I can do. And I think, like, our first kind of like touch with entrepreneurship started when we basically rented an apartment, which was way too expensive for us, right? We couldn't afford it at all. It was an amazing apartment in Shoreditch, in the middle of everything, in the middle of culture. So we had to be there, right? But the thing is that we couldn't afford it, right? So and at that point, Airbnb was just starting out. It was like very early stage startup, but they had some presence in London. So that's what we did. We just like kind of made like a small boutique hotel of our apartment. We had like our little corner, right? But we started like inviting all these people, right? And like a lot of people, because because of the location, it's like Shoreditch. It's kind of like, I guess you can call it like a Silicon Valley of London. Like there's a lot of.
You had a mini Silicon Valley in your apartment in London. That's
not in my apartment, but the neighborhood was
okay, like little London neighborhood Silicon Valley.
Exactly. So we had like plenty of startups. We had like Vice offices just across the street. We had like Google campus again. So there's a bunch of like tech entrepreneurs who would be coming and kind of staying with us, right? At the same time, we worked with a lot of startups. We started working with a lot of startups. We helped them to develop recipes. So food and beverage businesses which wanted to create their own products, they would come to us because we had like this laboratory back in Lithuania that we worked with. So we would help them to kind of develop products basically that they can sell to the. So we had like this hotel that we were working with, which we were kind of bootstrapping to finance everything that we're doing. And at the same time, we're kind of slowly tapping into, like the whole incubating and accelerating, not strictly in tech, but like in FMCG industry. And that kind of slowly grew into an accelerator, right? Because we saw that helping startups only with R&D doesn't really help them that much, right? Because you kind of hand over them like a product, and they kind of like fail with it because they don't have like a proper knowledge of how to market it, how to enter the market, how to develop a brand, how to fundraise. So we slowly kind of started to build knowledge everywhere and started to accelerate quite a few business. We used our hotel as an incubator. Then we slowly kind of branched out. We started working with local universities. We worked with UCL, and kind of like we accelerated around 25 businesses. But the problem was that the market was pretty saturated in London when it comes, especially in FMCG and food beverage. So we were kind of like always looking into other markets, right? So we were, just trying to understand what is happening, in Asia, in China, and in Southeast Asia. And my other co-founder of Whatnot, he was kind of based in Thailand. He was working like in 𝗏 in the north of Thailand. He was like staying with this group of guys, the group of developers trying to develop this application to kind of like conference management application, but he was hating it. So we started to talk, like what's happening, like how's the ecosystem in Thailand. And like we kind of discovered that food and beverage scene is huge in here. So yeah, so we started building this bridge towards Thailand, and we kind of came to Thailand just to kind of play around with our acceleration model. We worked with a few brands. It was very difficult. Acceleration doesn't really work in the same way in Southeast Asia how it does, let's say, in London, right? And we kind of slowly started to pivot towards startup studio model, where you have like much more involvement in the way how idea is created and the way how a team is built, right? So we pivoted. We started working with local corporates, like helping them to build different technologies, different products. So we started doing that quite a lot, and kind of slowly started building our own products, right? Where like one of these products is Residence, that I hopefully will be able to speak a little bit more.
What an incredible adventure to think that all this started from an apartment in London.
That's right.
Right. I think that's just to add on to that before we move on, to take a moment to respect and admire your journey and your adventure. And thanks for sharing that. I think it really is how things happen and develop, huh? Not like there's no straight line, linear line. It's like over there for a bit, go over here, and then things happen, life happens. And I'm curious, in that process, it's like what pissed you off enough about hiring people to make you want to create a product to solve that issue? Like what was the spark of inspiration? Like, you know what, I'm going to do something about this.
So the first thing that was pretty kind of annoying when we were, so just a little bit more context, right? So let's say in the last year only, right? We had to hire around 40 people for
different various projects.
Exactly, for the products that we are building and for the products that we're building with our clients and with our investors, right? And like being a startup studio, you have to be very lean, right? Like you have to be highly aware of your cost. All businesses have to, but especially if you are a startup, right? So the first thing that kind of like jumped out significantly was just the sheer price, how much it costs, financially and emotionally to find someone, right? Like recruiters, they charge these astronomical figures, right? So they kind of in a way they're trying to filter out startups, right? So they could just work with corporates, which like companies which have
the budgets for that.
Exactly, like that have like deep pockets, right? So they have like these huge fees that you need to pay, obviously, usually for based on success. But still, you know, if you are an early stage startup or a startup in general, this is crazy, right? Job boards, LinkedIn, everything, right? Is difficult, and especially if you have also people who have experience, right?
Like talent, like real talent. And so so what I gather from what you're saying is just the ecosystem isn't user friendly for startups who actually need the talent to grow and scale.
Exactly. The conventional methods are just not kind of built for small businesses, right? They're very expensive. They don't really focus on speed that much. You know, like we were doing a lot of analysis, you know, and like we spoke with maybe 50 or 60 businesses, different size businesses in the last 6 months, and you know, and it takes like from 1 month to 3 months to find a person.
I wonder if this is true, that it takes up to 3 to 6 months for that person to start performing, because by the time they've gotten used to the role and kind of figure things out, especially if there's no onboarding, right?
Exactly, you know, like, and it's the onboarding process is pretty hefty. Finding that person, assessing him, and kind of having the confidence to hire him, right, is very important. Plus, you know, like the startup, you know, like let's say for in Thailand, you know, the law is pretty strict, right? So that means that like the hiring law, right? So you need to be very, very smart in the way how you're hiring people, right? Because then it's very difficult to kind of if you pass the process, the trial process, then it becomes very, very difficult to kind of stop working with someone, right?
Right.
So you need to be very, very smart in the way you hire.
Let's talk about solutions, because given that your new startup is designed to solve these problems, I wonder what's your perspective on how recruiting for startups is expensive, and how, like, what's a good solution to that for startups?
I think like for us, what we saw is very valuable. You know, like it's purely based on our own experience, right? So we're kind of building this tool for us,
for your own problems. I'm trying to solve my own problems here.
For our own problems for first and most, you know, because this is something that we can relate to,
right,
a lot, you know. And I think like what helped us a lot clearly was developing like a place where you can make these decisions smartly, right? Like intelligent driven approach, right? So analysis of people that you're trying to hire is super important. So analyzing them based on you know, on culture fit, on work style fit, you know, motivational fit, company structure fit, behavior fit, you know, having like a very, very proper process internally allows you to kind of tap into, you know, let's say postgraduates, right? Like you can explore people who recently recently finished universities, for instance, right? If you have a way how you can, test them, analyze them, and understand how well do they fit your company, you don't have to overpay a lot just to hire, seasoned and tested people.
Right.
So that's I think that's very, very important, especially for startups, like figure out how you can bring in interns, how you can bring in, postgraduates, people fresh from university, people with not that much experience.
But you can mold, right? You can.
Yes, exactly. So how can you analyze that they're a good fit and they can perform once they land in your company? And and then the price just drops significantly, right? Like 2x, 3x, 4x, right? Like it's more for if you have that smart process, right? So I think this is what we're trying to do. I'm not going to pretend that we have an answer, like on how exactly this process needs to happen. But I think this is what our approach, we first of all, we sit down with each company that we work with. So for instance, right now we have 10 businesses in our,
that's cool.
We sit down with each of them and we just analyze exactly what kind of company they are, right? Like, is the company is driven by a team effort? Is it driven by the cult of the founder? Both cases work in certain environments, right? So we kind of analyze what kind of culture exists in that company, what kind of environment that they can offer. And plus, we also speak with each candidate in a similar way, right? Like we try to analyze what exactly do they want? How can we increase the retention rate for the company? So how can they be happy in the company that they're working with, right? Sorry, I can't.
Sorry. Yeah. What have you noticed about those interviews? What has surprised you so far in the work that you're doing with both talent and the talent acquirers? What surprised you so far?
So what surprised me when we were talking with companies is exactly the inefficiency of the whole process, right? Like I personally thought that the companies tend to have this very hefty screening process, like interviewing process, and the choices that they make, like the people that they bring into interviews are based on hefty data, but it's not the case at all.
Yeah, well, if I can share, yeah.
Like most of the companies, they tend to just screen the CVs and just look into the keywords and then bring people who have 2 or 3 keywords in place, and that's amazing for me.
So you're missing a lot of behavioral, cultural matches or mismatches. I can share from my perspective on being on both sides of the table. In being recruited, I noticed that companies tend to sugarcoat a lot of the roles. Like, this is great, it's going to be great, it's going to be, we're going to give you all the support. And once you get in there, it's like getting catfished. You know what that means?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like getting catfished on Tinder. You're like, hold up, this is nothing like it was advertised. Yeah, but this is the role. Good luck. You got the job. Isn't that great? I'm like, hold the F up, And then being on the other side of the table of hiring, I know, especially if we really wanted that talent, I could see my team members trying to sugarcoat it because we want that guy so bad, not thinking whether this role would be a fit for him or not. We just wanted his talent. Does that make sense? So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. So what's naturally occurring is a huge conflict of interest. And I like what you're saying, because it speaks to that problem, that people don't know what's happening. Well, I can share. I was in an interview, and I asked the guy. I was on the hiring side, and I asked the talent, okay, ask me 3 questions, and he went quiet, and he said, okay, what's your job like? And I'm like, it's hard. And everybody on my team looked at me like he's not supposed to say that.
Yeah.
And what came out of my mouth was, I think it was like late in the day, and I was kind of checked out in my head, and I said, it's hard because, it's a new business unit, it's growing, sales are down, it's really challenging. But if you like a challenge and you want to grow, this is a good job for you. But if you want something easy and kind of steady, this isn't the right job for you. And his eyes lit up because he was like, oh, actually, I want a challenge. And my team looked at me like, that works? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm being really honest about what this job is like. And so he agreed to a second interview. And I think that's speaking to, actually, this probably came from conversations with you about being real honest about what the job was like. So thank you to you for that. And what I'm seeing here for you and your resonance is how much of low retention and mismatch placement is about communication. I'd love for you to speak to that, about how resonance is bridging that gap or doing about that miscommunication of expectations and desires. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think, the problem with hiring is the obvious questions that we're asking, right? Like not the obvious questions, but the obvious answers that the, let's say, the candidates need to provide.
Well,
to the so let's say if I will ask you, are you, do you prefer to be on time at
work? I'm like, of course I want to say yeah.
You're gonna say yes, right?
Yeah.
But the other side of the different answer could be like, no, I like to work on my own time, but I like to provide results, right? And both answers have a place on this earth, right? Like you can use both types. So I think this is what we're working, like myself and my team works mostly on, is how can we hide the intent of the question? Not really hide the intent, but how can we ask questions in a way that everyone who answers them are very honest, right?
Well, I was gonna say, common sense here would have it that everybody would just be really honest about what they want. Yeah. And isn't it so interesting that common sense goes out the window in interviews for corporate or for startups? And I feel like perhaps more so than for startups, because they need to scale quickly and they need the talent quickly, and they just want you in. Like, I just need you to do this thing because I got to scale. And it's almost like what I see for you is you're helping founders slow down that process and do like done for you. Like, we will take care of this. You just focus on building business. This product, this service will help you to really find the right people for your growth. And I think what I heard and what you said was, meaning there seems to be more to hiring the right people than just the job description or where you went to school or the questions, right? Because you can print out how to ask great interview questions, but it seems to be more than that. I'd love for you to speak to that, about the insights you're getting from doing this work.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much for, and I think that this is like one of the main missions of what we're building. Encourage companies and talent to be honest with each other, because if I know that, let's say, a person that comes to my company, he is he has the necessary knowledge, and he's like a good culture fit, in the company. But if I know that they, their aspiration and their vision is to build something of their own in, let's say, next 3 to 5 years, so that means that I have some only limited time to work with them, that helps me this type of knowledge, because it doesn't matter, like it's not like I'm not gonna hire him. I'm just gonna,
It's just
like,
helpful to know, right? And you might
just
partner
help,
with him,
just help.
right?
I'm gonna position him
Mm.
in the best way so he could grow the most and become the entrepreneur that he wants to become.
Right.
And it's just like so much time wasted, just by hiding this type of information.
I agree. And what I just saw in what you shared is what you're talking about is a very different approach to talent acquisition, in the sense that I think traditionally it's about, I'm hiring you so you can do A, B, C, D for me. And what you're talking about is putting all the cards on the table so I can not only get you to do what I want, but I'm going to support you in your long-term vision to do what you want. And to me, when you said that, that just felt more harmonious and synchronistic compared to habitual models. And I think that even helps with team pairing, no? Because I've been in situations where I've been hired to run teams, and I'm like being me, like as a coach, and like I'm learning development specialist. I just want to grow everybody and, empower everybody to do better. And I think the team I was put in were like, they didn't want that. They just wanted to do their work, go home, and kind of get their salary. Like they were not interested to develop further. But I think if we had gone through your process, I might have been matched with a team like, okay, if you want to grow and expand and you're into personal development, you should definitely work with Nikon on his team. You'll fucking love it, because that's what he's all about. But if you don't want to do that, you should not be on his team, because he will push you and challenge you, right? And like things like that. I see this for you going in, companies having much more insight into their people. I think that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And you just basically, you are capable to avoid so many problems in the future, by placing people in the right kind of location within your company. It kind of opens door to this kind of honesty, right?
Right.
Like between each other, and it allows you to basically build yourself towards the direction that you want to do, both when it comes to company development. And but like at the same time, we need to we can't forget that we're not kind of living in the ideal world.
Correct.
Right?
Where life happens.
It would be great that would be the case, but like for us, what we're doing, like at Resonance, we're playing a lot with how we can gamify the whole process. Okay. Right? We're building a lot of narratives which are kind of attached to the popular culture, right? Where people, when we're providing the information, they're just going through these like real-time examples and giving us like a glimpse on how they would behave in certain situations, right? And by that, they kind of give us like the necessary information to understand where exactly, like what kind of person or what kind of company they are, and allows us to basically, connect them to the right companies and companies to the right talent, right? And also at the same time, what it gives a lot, and this is the one like the feedback that we get a lot from the talent and the companies, it gives you an insight to who you are, like
as a hirer.
Yeah, as a hire or as a talent, right? Like it gives you like a little glance in a way how, I don't know, 16 personalities does.
Right.
It's obviously not like, gonna give you.
I've experienced that, where in being hired for the wrong job and getting there, and I'm like, oh, you thought you wanted this, but what you actually needed was that. Yeah. And that's more about you not knowing yourself enough to see that, right? And I think that's very common in startups. I think especially in like the coaching world, is when people are in a rush in their heads and decision making, they don't really make good decisions. No. And I think when people slow down and like startups slow down, it's like, well, actually, who are we right now, and who would be a great fit for whatever this is at this moment, and who would want to grow with whatever this is? Because I've heard many stories of people just going out and hiring the best and famous talent, the person with the best personal branding, total clusterfuck, because that person was not what they really like needed, because they didn't take a moment to look at who and what they were in their core. Like, is that what I'm in reflecting on what you're saying?
And like, you need to just purely think of the way how these kind of superstars behave, you know, like how they can accelerate their salaries is by moving a lot through different companies,
Right.
Getting a lot of propositions from companies and basically kind of like throwing them into their current employers. I'm not saying that everyone is doing this, but this is definitely a practice, right? Like, this is how you build up your salary, by moving a lot, you know, and that. So it's, if you're gonna just stop chasing, you know, the people who have all this, you know, like
glam, like
very sparkly people, and just focus on your internal process, like just being honest, analyzing what you need, what you want, and kind of, you know, like just open doors, you know, like you can build up amazing stars within your company by understanding who the people are who are applying to the job that you're posting.
I got it, Justus. And I'm going to give you this for free. Are you ready for this?
Please do.
You were like the Moneyball of hiring people for startups. You ever watch that movie?
I did, yes.
And like the old guys, like, oh, we got to hire these fat, flashy guys, but like Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill were like the two characters. Well, actually, if we look at the data, we just got to get these guys on base, and they built like a championship team for like half the money. And I think, and because those guys weren't really flashy, they were easier to work with, they were easier to hire, and they saw through the bullshit. And I think that's exactly what you're offering. You're offering like the money ball of hiring people to grow teams for faster and cheaper.
There's definitely similarities, but at the same time, we're offering the same type of proposition to the candidates.
Yes,
right?
super important.
Like we see that a lot of people are striving towards, you know, the Grabs, the TikToks, you know, like all these like startups that are kind of like, you know, well established. But there's so much more companies in between that are doing amazing job, you know, in artificial intelligence, in blockchain, in food and beverage, right? Like all kinds of tech are happening. And especially, you know, like there was like a very different story probably 2-3 years ago, right? But now when you look into what is happening, like I'm kind of like I'm part of this accelerator that we're building together with 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃 University.
Hook a brother up.
Yeah, so we have like an amazing amount of startups applying, right? Like companies which have these great ideas and are, you know, want to work with interesting people, you know, and plus, you know, like if you work with startups, the amount of ownership that you have compared to pushing documents in, you know, in a corporate environment is amazing. You know, it's just like night and day.
What I see for you, or what it just occurred to me, is I imagine a young graduate or postgraduate wanting to go to all these flashy places because they have like big advertising and stuff, and you being able to say, well, actually, based on the data, like that place might look fancy, but you're going to be way happier here. Like based on this data and inputs you gave us, you're like an 88% match to this other startup, and you're going to be happy there because even the leadership style matches what you wanted. And to have that data, which does not exist right now, or at least I have not seen it. Why not? Because I as a coach, I found that when people have better peace of mind, they tend to perform better when they have, and a lot of that is to do with good matches, right? And so, well, actually, I have a question.
Sure.
That occurred to me. Who, without mentioning names, who is your best hire and who is your worst hire that come to mind as building a startup? Without mentioning names.
Easy answer. Like our best hire is someone that came straight out of university, and we basically helped that person to develop the knowledge, and like the like by kind of exposing them to everything, right? Starting from like basic financials, trying out, like basically like exposing to like junior entrepreneur kind of position, right? Like giving them like a vast like
we spoke about this as like your own Google style, raise your own best hire, right? Like
exactly. And kind of developed, and that person was very open to everything. They don't have like a certain
no filters.
Filters. They are very, very open with the way how they're providing feedback. The questions are pretty direct. So obviously you don't get that kind of value on day one, but you start to get it like in second month, third month, fourth month, and now she's amazing, right? Like she's probably one of the main reasons why Whatnot is moving forward.
Wow. Well, if she's watching,
exactly,
good for you.
Exactly. Like that's great. And our worst hire was exactly what we were just talking about, right? We found this guy, and we accelerated the process, and we basically just went tick, large corporate, famous startup, all these, all these kind of accreditation and academic.
So on paper, you look like a rock star.
On paper, he was a rock star, but it was pretty clear probably at day 2 or day 3 after
that's true.
That he doesn't fit in our culture, right? In the way how things because we're building startups, there's a lot of uncertainty,
ambiguity.
There's a lot of ideas, like you need to pivot all the time, you need to kind of change, disrupt, there's a lot of that, right? Like this, we never pretend that we have answers. We kind of constantly everything, right? So and that person just didn't click in, and we unfortunately we had to say
well, that's fair. And I'm happy you said the first or second day. I remember getting hired for the wrong type of job, and I knew in the first week I'm the wrong person for this job, and I spent the rest of the time stressing, like, how the fuck do I get out of this? And part of me is like, I wish they would have, if they were just honest in the beginning, we both could have saved each other a lot of time, energy, and effort and money. And it was just honesty.
The team is the most important part of your business. Obviously, it's I'm a bit biased because of what I'm building, but just look into the data, right? Look how important is to make the first 20 hires, hiring the right people who will kind of resonate your ideas, and the kind of the reasons why you actually build this business through other people that you're going to bring into company in the case of a certain success, and in the case of a scale up. So depending on where you get your research, but mostly the importance of having a strong team is either the first on the list or second on the list, right? It's super, it's you just have to be really, really smart in the way how we do it.
Well, that was excellent. I felt like I've learned so much about hiring people, and I've got to self-reflect too on my own experiences, and I love the things you were talking about, because I got to see oh yeah, that's why that didn't work out, or oh yeah, that's why that did work out, because I have a taekwondo business, and we've actually just scaled from 5 branches to 8 in the last week. And my best hire was my fresh out of university person. And I grew that guy, or I don't want to take full credit because he was amazing, but similar to you, I exposed him to everything. I let him shadow me. I grew him. I supported him. And I am so proud of the man he has become over the past 5 years that we've worked together. And I think he's kind of, I've made him like manager, and he gets like, I think he's becoming a partner now because he's just so good at what he does, but I've grown him from scratch, you know. And my worst hires were similar to you, where like the guys look like rock stars and they came in with like ego and they were really difficult to work with. And I was like, huh, interesting. So given everything we've talked about, because we're coming up on time, so my last question to you is, put you on the stage here with a microphone.
Okay.
Given what you've experienced and learned, what would you give to other founders, startups, and business owners in terms of hiring and acquiring talent? And the same question for the opposite side for talent. What would you say? You can take a moment.
Yeah, I mean, like I mean, it's kind of like, I guess it's pretty simple answer. And, it's just, you really need to think a lot about how to become smart when you're hiring, right? Like how to have this process where you're completely honest with who you need. You are very transparent with what you can offer, right? Like kind of showing the vision, the mission, kind of exposing everyone to the culture as early as possible, so you don't need to bullshit later down the line, right? Just being able just to say, this is who we are, this is who we want, and kind of like try to analyze this as much as you can as early as possible, right? Because then it's otherwise you're going to have to live with the mistakes that you did for a while.
I see an article written by you, how to find the right talent, how to be less full of shit in hiring.
Yeah, exactly. And it's vice versa, right? Like
so the opposite side. Yeah,
I can't speak for everyone, right? Like everyone has different reasons why they work, like some people, like they have families, you need like a solid financial kind of ground to stand on, right? And it doesn't matter really what it is exactly, like you need to, you have like different priorities than work, for instance, right? So no matter what it is, again, be very honest. If money is the most important thing for you,
just be upfront about that. Like, need the money.
Say it. Like I am a hired gun and I'm going to shoot, but like you need to pay me first, and that's fine. Like you need all kinds of people. You need all kinds of motivations, right?
Right, and you're right. I love that, because that's also about the talent being less full of shit. Like if you need the money and you're a gun, just tell them what you need, and some people really need a hired gun right now. We don't want to grow somebody. We need a hired gun to do something very specific, Yeah.
Exactly.
And if you're looking to grow and something, you can tell us that too, and we'll probably find the right department. Yeah. Exactly.
Yep. So that's in a nutshell just the importance of transparency. That's what is coming, and that's what companies become like you can see like the way how like the popularity of something like Glassdoor, right?
So for people who don't know what that is, I'd love for you to share real quick.
Yeah, it gives you a glance into a company.
So it's a website, right? It's a
website that gives you like a good glance into the potentially into the company that you would like to apply for. It gives like feedback from the actual employees that either worked or are working in that company. And and this grows significantly because people have choices right now. You can work, especially if you work in IT and tech, like you have choices. So transparency between both sides is highly important.
Got it. Okay. And last but not least, I'd love for you to plug what you're up to. Tell us where we can hang out with you and whatnot, and Startup Studio and Residence. Just tell us a little about that before you go.
Sure. So Resonance is currently like this platform that we're building under our startup studio. So everyone who would like to either apply to the startups that we are currently working with, or apply to potentially the businesses that we're going to bring in the future. Just give us like a better understanding of who you are. Please visit our website at Whatnot, and you can actually do that, right? Same thing. We're looking, for startups which are kind of unhappy with the current process, with the current, ways how you can recruit and assess people. What we're doing right now, we're not pretending that we have all the answers. So we would like to just speak with as many startups as possible. So just to understand what kind of problems they have. So if you're interested, just again, through our website, you can just,
I'll put the links in the description for in the YouTube and give y'all the hookup. To me, in my reflection of this conversation is I've learned so much. I saw myself on both sides of the table, and a lot of ahas, like, oh yeah, that's why, or oh yeah, that's exactly what happened. And it's so refreshing to hear that, to know that I'm not alone, that I bet a lot of other people are also experiencing similar things on both sides of the table in talent acquisition. And I'm just really grateful you decided to rent that apartment in London. Like, what a great journey. Because of that thing, more people are going to get better jobs, and people are going to hire better people for their startups, all because of that. You did that apartment thing in London. And what a wonderful journey. And thank you for your time, your energy, and your vision. And hopefully, well, let's do this again. Like once Resonance gets going and you have a lot of case studies, let's bring you back on, and we'll talk about what you've learned from that vantage point.
I would love to come back.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me. It was great to speak.
My pleasure. Okay, everybody. So we will, I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. All right. Bye. I'm gonna stop recording.